Hey guys, Lady here, and welcome back to part 3 of the series of analyses on the Persona 5 characters and how they represent their respective tarot archetype. This time featuring the Hierophant and the Lovers Arcana. But before we begin with the Hierophant, I'd like to briefly explain the relevant Jungian terms and/or concepts that we'll be dissecting in this video. So, the overarching themes of the Persona series are based off of Carl Jung's ideas, including those such as the collective unconscious, archetypes, and the use of the tarot to symbolize a person's path to wholeness. Jung proposed that we are all born with the collective unconscious, an entity that contains the shared memories and ideas across all of humanity. Just as there are similar myths and legends across all cultures, there exist the archetypes that manifest as the persona we use in the game. Archetypes are certain idealized images of a person or role that transcends cultures and time periods, by the way. So, in relation to the tarot, each of the major arcana promotes this concept of an individual who begins as the Fool card, gaining wisdom, experience, and essentially what is a soul throughout the process of encountering each one of the tarot archetypes. In Persona 5's case, this is symbolized via the relationships Joker establishes and nurtures with his confidants. So with that covered, we can now continue from where we left off last video with the Hierophant archetype, represented by Sojiro Sakura in P5. So unlike the major arcana that have come prior, Hierophant is not a common term we hear in modern times. Though back in ancient Greece, the Hierophant was the chief teacher of holy things, or in other words, a spiritual guide in times of uncertainty. Now, the Hierophant doesn't necessarily represent a specific church or belief system, but instead represents an authority figure in general who can guide us on our spiritual journey. And by spiritual journey, I mean such things like how to figure out who we are as individuals, what's important to us, and coming to peace with the world and our current situation in life. So going back to that authority figure bit, Sojiro's background as a former government official, as well as his tendency to keep his head down and tell Joker to do the same, is all symbolic of the Hierophant's relation to authority. The Hierophant generally upholds the systems in our society, thinking it's best to stick to existing structures. Though we're not talking about just blind faith here. We'll discuss this topic further when we get to the section all about the reverse aspects of this arcana. But for now, let's focus back on Sojiro's role as a spiritual guide for Joker, Futaba, and to all the Phantom Thieves, since he basically takes on a fatherly role for all of them at their secret hideout Leblanc. Sojiro's talk with Yusuke at the end of the Madarame arc was such a cool low-key example of a guardian figure being able to impart some knowledge he's accumulated about life over the years to someone less experienced. You see, the Hierophant archetype encompasses the guiding figure who has already tread a certain path and thus can impart the knowledge gained via their own experience to others in return. Sojiro's response to Yusuke's question asking why he took Joker in showcases this aspect of the upright Hierophant in two main ways. One is how Sojiro says Joker reminds him of his younger self, and thus he'd like to impart some guidance to this teen regarding the adolescent path he's already walked. And two, the Hierophant is a compassionate figure. This archetype does the moral thing, which we can see in this case when he takes Joker in during his probation, even if Best Coffee Dad tries to brush it off as just sometimes you do stupid things. And speaking of coffee, Sojiro imparts extensive knowledge on said beverage, curry, and the restaurant trade to Joker all throughout his confidant. His ability to tell what beans Joker used in a brew just by taste, to reconfiguring a blend to perfectly suit the unique tastes of his customers, all clearly show that he is an authority figure when it comes to the world of coffee and similar food stuff. Not to mention all the help with the ladies he imparts to Joker as well, all of which is especially highlighted in the Harem Valentine event and a very special celebration day that was added in Royal. Don't want to spoil too much, but let's just say the very experienced Mr. Sakura went all out in these matters to ensure Joker could please his lady friend of choice. But all archetypes have reverse aspects to themselves as well. So most notably in the Hierophant's case, this normally manifests in the feeling of being too restricted or weighed down by the structure society imposes. Sojiro stagnated for a few years due to his guilt over Wakaba's death and the fact that Futaba's blood relatives were blaming him for her becoming a shut-in. Now, we know that this couldn't be further from the truth, since Futaba's aunt and uncle were the ones who had her living in squalor. But due to Japanese society's strong focus on biological blood ties, as can be seen in the existing Koseki system, Sojiro felt helpless to confront Futaba's blood relatives' lies. If you want to know more about the Japanese Koseki, or family registry system, and the societal emphasis on family blood ties, I've covered it in extensive detail in my Akechi video, which you can check out in the cards above if you wish. But at the end of the day, even though Sojiro stumbled for a few years there, his heart was in the right place, and ultimately he did stand up to Futaba's uncle with no hesitation. This next part is where we discuss how all the following actions he takes is in line with the upright Hierophant, and how they respect the structures put in place by society, even though there will always be bad apples who abuse the system in some way. In Sojiro's case, this is showcased in how he reprimanded Futaba for hacking the interwebs and illegally obtaining the info about her relative's debt. Plus, he went the full legal route to adopt and gain official custody of her. Finally, he completely agreed to the inspection by the government officials and was nothing but honest with his statements the entire time. So overall, Sojiro encompasses the knowledgeable authority figure archetype who teaches us that it's okay to seek out help and/or second opinions from people who are further along the path of life as us when we need it. His years of experience working with coffee beans, curry, and other things related to his job is all just a small fraction of all the knowledge he imparted onto Joker. Through Sojiro's story, we are taught the important spiritual lesson of identifying what's most important in our lives, as well as how to handle the delicate balance between the structures of society already in place, yet having the courage to stand up to the injustices that exist in these systems. But with the Hierophant covered, it's now time we move on to the Lover's Arcana as is represented by An Takamaki. This archetype deals in the realm of love, intimacy, and relationships, and though it doesn't have to be in a romantic sense, it turns out to be more often than not compared to any of the other arcana. But overall, the Lovers helps us observe our problems through the lens of our relationships and is honestly one of the most complex arcana, since it's only via these external matters that the Lover's figure begins reevaluating their personal values. Only then do they arrive at a new personal belief system. So what exactly do I mean by that? Well, in On's case, it was only through her relationship with Shiho and, later on, relationship pertaining to Mika that led to her reconsideration of how to approach the adversity in her life. Witnessing Shiho's recovery progress and her sheer determination despite the grueling pain of physical therapy is what prompted On to begin reevaluating her relationship with modeling. You see, after experiencing Kamoshida's awful sexual harassment, On could only view modeling as something that solely reminded her of the teacher's vile gaze. But by continuing to stick by Shiho, as well as developing the rival relationship, if we can call it that, with Mika, On was inspired to sit down and really reevaluate what modeling would mean to her in the future. It's through these experiences with these other ladies that On discovered an intrinsic reason to pursue modeling again, which has led her to pursuing that path wholeheartedly in her confidant and onwards. But on that note, we've now arrived at the reverse Lover's Arcana and its relationship with temptation. You see, the intoxicating nature of love, intimacy, and other aspects of this realm can lead the lovers on a dangerous path of immediate rewards and/or pleasure. On's tendency towards sweets and the temptation of whenever they're on sale showcase this on a lighter note, while her decision involving Shadow Kamoshida is a much heavier example. Instead of delivering the final blow to Kamoshida for good, On realized that this outcome would only bring fleeting pleasure. In reality, it would not be true justice for Shiho and all the other victims unless Kamoshida survived and went on to pay for his crimes by serving his time. Another indirect lesson of the lover's archetype is learning that the important things in life require one's dedication and hard work for the long haul, much like what's required of any relationship in general. Seeing how much hard work and effort Mika puts into honing her craft, for example, helped On see that her modeling career is going to require diligence and planning. There's no quick and easy way to achieve and maintain a toned physical appearance. Plus, she has to learn to cut back on the sweets to ease in this department. But in the final stretch of her confidant, we see On having to say goodbye to a valued relationship once more. However, On's experience here highlights the dichotomy of this very notion. You see, we must be willing to take risks and expose ourselves if we want to experience the true joys of what love and relationships have to offer us. It's painful to say goodbye to Shiho, yet at the same time, each breakup in life hails a new beginning and chance to embark on a new inward journey. So ultimately, the lover's archetype teaches us the value of forming relationships with others, with being willing to be vulnerable in order to learn from them in return. We must be okay with making mistakes, since they signal just another opportunity to reflect inwardly, grow, and change. So in conclusion, the lover's archetype teaches the full valuable lessons in trust, intimacy, and how we can improve our own lives by forming relationships with others and learning from their experiences. But yeah, that about wraps up this third installment. Thank you so much for your patience, since it's been months since the last one in this series. But anyway, I'd love to know what you guys love about Sojiro or On the most, and also let me know if you think I missed anything particularly notable about them. Also, please join our welcoming and active community on Discord, and hey, check out my other socials here on Twitter and on Twitch. Lastly, I want to give a huge thanks to all my patrons for their support, especially Jared Breland, Andreas Hansen, Captain Hobo, NT Luck, Big Clingy, Sam Bezjak, Thomas Perez Jr., Francesco Santoyo Rego, Silverwind847, Sathya Silvaraja, M. Meownolin, Gigi Sora, Platinum Rose, Malcolm Lowry, Killer Ninja 151, Melanie Gutierrez, Shadow Ace, Unholy Biscuit, and Leviathan 8685. Oh my gosh, thank you, legit, you guys, so much. Like, there's so many names now at this point. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, take care. See ya!